somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 queer activists and allies show up and show out and come together to talk about how we deal with the coming year and years. DC is really in many ways the perfect space for that. And so many of our national organizations are housed there. It's really important that we be back there. We haven't been there since 2018, so we were overdue.
Long overdue, it seems, and I can't really disagree. I mean, if we're going to be somewhere and raise some hell, DC seems like a great place to do that right now. It's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, and we are back with Creating Change. Cathy, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back with the fam. How are you?
I'm wonderful. This is a tradition now.
Totally. I love it. One of my favorites.
Period. We have a good time. Okay, family?
We do.
And if you've never been to Creating Change, what are you waiting on? Go there, meet me, see me and the Q crew. Okay, the entire team comes through on Creating Change. And who knows? Kathy be running around. You might be able to meet Kathy, but I can't really promise that.
I don't know. I'm a blur, but you can often find me in the media center because that's what I do. So
that's it. And family, we're excited to let you know that Creating Change is going to be January 21st through the 25th, and it's taking place in DC. Now, Kathy, people asking, why in the world are we going to DC?
Well, the task force is our major headquarters is in Washington, DC. We have been there for decades, and we plan these things years ahead of time, but the reality is the timing right now is actually perfect. Where do people need to hear our voice the most, if not in our local, state houses, is in Washington, D.C. So the idea of having somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 queer activists and allies show up and show out and come together to talk about how we deal with the coming year and years. DC is really in many ways the perfect space for that. And so many of our national organizations are housed there. It's really important that we be back there. We haven't been there since 2018, so we were overdue.
Long overdue, it seems, and I can't really disagree. I mean, if we're going to be somewhere and raise some hell, DC seems like a great place to do that right now. And I understand the theme for this year is unstoppable. Yes?
It is. And, I think that says it all. We need to steel ourselves. And I think the interesting thing about Creating Change, which you know well, is that it's really not a conference. We don't even want to call it a conference anymore. It's really a convening, a gathering of queer folks. Because yes, during the day, the workshops are intense. The day-long institutes are issue and identity focused. And we talk about authoritarianism and fighting fascism and how to raise money and how to do organizing. But what happens in the evening is that we show out our queer joy. And that is as important right now, given the world and the climate that we're living in politically and culturally. So we will, of course, as we always do, have the house ball, have the cabaret, have our receptions in the evening, caucuses, and just being together. One of the things that I love about Creating Change, and this is the 38th Creating Change. Wow. And I think I've been to at least 30 of them. So I know. One of the most exciting things about Creating Change is just being in the hallways, being with the people, hanging out in the lobby. The lobby of whatever hotel we're in becomes the largest queer bar in the universe that night, right? And so just being around all these folks, the energy, the joy, and just, not feeling alone in this work, which has been really tough. Just this last, what feels like decade, but it's really only been not even a year. 10 months has felt like 10 years under the Trump administration. So it's really important, I think, for us to come together in January.
It is. And I find that this tradition that we started just a few years ago really does start my year off right. It gives me, if I'm not already full, it fills me up, or or I'm running over, truly, in queer joy.
Fills the tank. That's what I always say. Fills the tank.
It really does. It really does. And I love the queer takeover of every hotel bar, okay, that I've ever attended. It's the most beautiful thing on the planet. And this year, theme being unstoppable, which I think is pretty spot on around how we have been this year. And unfortunately, having to be resilient during this time, I do feel like we are really unstoppable, especially when we come together as a group and as a collective, for one mission, which is liberation, queer liberation in
That's
fact.
right.
I mean, that's at the beginning and the end of all of this. So, Cathy, I know you've been to so many of these. Like you alluded to 30 out of the 38. I bet you it's more
At
than
least.
that. But one thing that's really special about creating change are the all-day institutes and sort of the workshops and how people can really dig into one specific topic for a long extended period of time, which you don't get in other places that call themselves conferences, right? So tell the good people a little bit more about those.
Sure. There are about 25 institutes, and they range from the Trans Institute, Bi Institute. There's a Latinx Institute. We're doing a Media Institute, which is an all-day session. We're doing it in partnership with GLAAD, so there'll be full media training with journalists. There are real opportunities to spend time as a group really learning from each other, but also learning from experts in whatever field it is that you're interested in. There's one on labor, there's one on climate change. So the idea of having those that are then, of course, surrounded also by the over 100 workshops that we have is really an incredible opportunity to find the right place for you and to find a place where you can learn and grow and connect with other folks who are interested in the same issues that you're working on or that you want to work on.
Yeah, that's oftentimes where you find your people. Like I think
Exactly.
the beautiful part about creating change is that if you go there and not knowing anybody, you can leave there finding your people.
We know we actually have a reception very early on and an orientation for first timers.
Yeah.
Because it can be overwhelming. I mean, for folks, especially if you're living in a place where it's not so easy to be queer, to suddenly be in this world that right? It's the world we want to live in all the time, but we get it for 5 days. And it really is extraordinary, extraordinarily diverse. I mean, if you look at who comes to creating change, nearly half of the attendees are trans and non-binary, more than half are BIPOC or people of color. It's the kind of world that we're trying to create at the task force. So it feels really special, but it can be a little bit overwhelming. So
absolutely. So family, time to get your registrations. Okay. It's time to sign up. Time to get your people in place. Cathy, how can folks begin to register?
It's super easy. Just go to thetaskforce.org or creatingchange.org. There's all kinds of information about registration. We understand that folks have concerns around travel, around being in a city like DC, which has been dealing with occupation by federal ICE and other federal law enforcement entities. So there's a ton of information about that. We take it very seriously. And there's also the opportunity to volunteer. If registration and all of the costs associated with coming to Creating Change are a challenge, we have opportunities for folks to volunteer to have their registration waived. We also offer a tremendous amount of resources around accessibility. So whether it's Spanish language translation, whether it's accessibility with scooters, whether it's ASL, it's really an opportunity to be in a space where you get to be you, as we say at the task force, and you're not just accepted, you're celebrated. We call it radical welcome. And that's exactly what it is.
Yes, it is. So family, go get your registration done. Okay. I want to see you there in the place in DC come January. Okay. It's something that you really don't want to miss. So, and if you can't pay for the registration, sign up to be a volunteer.
Volunteer.
Family, I promise you that's where you can find your people too. Okay. Cathy, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. And, when we have some more details, we'll send Fernando Lopez, our conference director, back and you can chat with them.
I love talking to Fernando and family. I hope to see you at Creating Change.